Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Joe and welcome to a brand new video. Today we've got another CSGO skin related video and I'm going to be talking about what I believe to be some of the best budget knives in Counter-Strike at this moment of time. I'm recording this on the 1st of March 2020, so all the prices are going to be relevant to that period in time. In a year's time, they might not be as accurate. Who knows? But yeah, so for my idea of a budget knife, I've gone with $100. I feel like $100 is a good budget. It's not too expensive. It's not too far-fetched to where, you know, it's unattainable. But you're not exactly going to be getting a Karambit Doppler for that price. And in terms of that $100 pricing, I'm actually going to be taking them from sites like BitSkins, Skin Baron, CS Deals, etc. And just sort of averaging them from those three sites because, as I'm sure you're aware, the Steam market prices are pretty inflated in comparison, as you know there's a rather large tax in Steam market, so people have to list it a little bit higher. So for that reason, we're going to be using the third-party markets, as I feel like it's more commonly purchased from there as well. But yeah, I feel like I've got a pretty good variety ranging from low 70s to high 90s in terms of pricing, and we've got a nice range of knives as well. Now just before we get into the video guys, I'm super close to 100,000 subscribers. In fact, I'm literally about 3 or so thousand subscribers away, so if you are new to the channel and aren't already subscribed, I have a stat on my dashboard that shows around 60% of my viewers aren't subscribed. So if that is you and you do enjoy the content, do feel free to subscribe. But yeah, I mean, without further ado, let's get into the first knife of the video. So the first knife, of course, is going to be a gut knife Tiger Tooth, and I think it's fair to say that I was pretty spoiled for choice when it came to the gut knife, but I thought Tiger Tooth was the nicest one. There was quite a few I could have went with, but the gut knife Tiger Tooth in factory new comes in at $95. I really like it. I think Tiger Tooth, if you play with high shaders, looks fantastic, and in the factory new condition, if you pick up one with a decent float for this price, you end up with next to no scratches on it, which is great. I do think Dopplers are nicer if you get the right phase, but if you're gonna get like a really nice playside, the chances are it might break the budget a little bit, so that's why I went with Tiger Tooth. Up next we have the Shadow Daggers Slaughter in minimal wear, and once again the Shadow Daggers could have plagued this entire list, but I tried to keep it to a minimum. The minimal wear Slaughters come in at $92, making them $8 shy of the $100 budget. I really like Slaughter. I think in minimal wear, Shadow Daggers still have next to no scratches, which is great. The scratches only really start to play a part in field testing, in my opinion, on Shadow Daggers, and obviously, because they're Slaughter, there's plenty of nice patterns that can be picked up, and I mean, with that $8 spare, you can spend a little bit extra to get one with extra nice patterns. But yeah, Shadow Daggers Slaughter are a necessity. You either love or you hate Shadow Daggers, and I mean, I'm a big fan of them. I think they're a really nice budget knife. Speaking of which, the last Shadow Daggers on the list are the Shadow Daggers Vanilla, coming in at about $86. Now, I really like the Vanilla Shadow Daggers. It's actually one of my favourite vanilla knives, purely because that dark matte black sheen on the blade itself is fantastic, and you can see in the inspect, the way the light reflects off it is so nice. It makes it look really polished, and just overall a great skin to have. And for the price of $86 or so, you really can't go wrong with this. And whilst I could have put loads of other Shadow Daggers in the list, I thought the Vanilla and the Slaughter were a good combination to put in. Up next we have one of the newer knives added to the game with the Ursus knife in Night Stripe with minimal wear, coming in at $95, so joint most expensive on the list so far. When I was heavily invested in trading in CSGO, this knife wasn't even a thing, and neither was the Night Stripe camo. I do kind of like it. I can definitely see why it's kind of considered lower tier, and coming in at $95 only just fits in, but I love the way it looks, especially in dark lighting. You could sort of see those darker colours patterning through the blade and the handle. I think it's really nice, and if you pick one up with a good float, the scratches aren't too noticeable, especially for a well-worn knife. Coming up next on the list, another pretty expensive one. We've got a Bowie knife blue steel in the condition of well worn, and if you go $5 or $10 extra, you can get a field tested one, but the well worn one is going to be coming in at $95, just sliding in under the budget. I really like blue steel as a skin. I think it's incredibly underrated and almost an upgrade to vanilla if you get one with nice patterns. It's a very subtle skin, but the worse the condition is and the worse the float, the more you sort of get this green, almost rust coming up through the skin, is the only sort of way I can describe it. Now, a Bowie knife is pretty big as well, so you get a really large blade with with the blue steel, which is just really nice. It's like you're getting pretty good bang for your buck. I feel like the Bowie knife is either a skin that you love or you hate, much like the Shadow Daggers, and I mean, I'm literally using a Doppler one at the moment, so it's pretty clear that I am a big fan of it, but if you're not, don't worry, we have plenty of other knives in the video. Speaking of which, we have the Falchion Knife Vanilla coming in at $90. Is it Falchion? Falchion? I'm not too sure. Either way though, the vanilla one comes in at $90, which once again slides it just under that budget ever so slightly. I feel like the Falchion knife doesn't really get the love it deserves. I mean, I had a Fade one way back in the day, and it was one of my favourite knives that I owned. I think the animation for it is incredibly clean, and you also get that pretty rare inspect where they balance it on their hand, which is pretty satisfying if you can manage to pull it off. Just overall, I think it's a really nice, clean, almost subtle knife in comparison. It's not overly flashy, it doesn't have any like insanely large blade like the Bowie knife. It's just almost subtle, gets the job done, and the way it folds out is just pretty satisfying to me. And a vanilla one, I mean, once again, I could have put quite a few Falchion knives on the list, but I thought vanilla was a pretty good one to include just because, I mean, you can't really go wrong with it. The way the blade looks is really nice. It's a really nice color, and yeah. Up next, we have the Stiletto knife in stained, in well-worn condition, coming in at $85. And once again, the Stiletto is like the Ursus in that when I was properly trading in this game, this knife didn't really exist, so it's kind of new to me, but it seems like a pretty low tier knife from what I can gather, and the fact you can pick up a well-worn stained one for $85 just solidifies that even more. Now, it almost reminds me of like a toothpick. It's an incredibly small pointy knife, and the animations for it aren't overly like crazy, they're not overwhelming, they're just sort of very basic stuff, but I really like the way stained looks on this knife in particular. Because the blade is so small, you don't get any of the like really big stains on it. It's just this sort of white shiny blade with a couple stains here and there, giving it a really clean look in my opinion. There was quite a few stilettos I kind of went for, but I thought I'd steer clear of the DD pats and the safari meshes, etc. on this knife in particular, as I just don't really like how they look. Stained is the way forward if you're working on a budget. Up next, we have the Huntsman knife Urban Masked in field tested, coming in at $73. Now, I do really like the Huntsman knife. I've been a big fan of the Huntsman knife for the longest time now. I've owned plenty of them in my time, and I think Urban Masked is a really good one to get. It's like a nice sort of lower tier one, and even in field tested, if you pick one up with a relatively bad float like the one I'm inspecting, it doesn't look too bad because of the colour of the skin itself. It almost blends into the blade where it's really not noticeable, where it's not like when you get like a safari mesh or a DD pat that's worn, it's obviously scraped off the blade. It's much more subtle just purely because of the colour, and I think the Huntsman knife in particular plays on that fantastically. I really like how the Urban Mask looks on the knife itself as well, on the actual blade part, and just overall you're getting a really good value knife here. The Huntsman is a really solid knife. And the last knife on the list, guys, is a Bowie knife safari mesh in field tested, and it's going to be the cheapest knife on the list as well, coming in at just $72. This is a really cheap price for this knife, and once again, the Bowie, you either love it or you hate it, but you can't deny that for a knife this big, you're getting pretty good value for money. Now, in safari and field tested, you're going to notice that it really doesn't look worn at all. If I was to guess the condition of this knife, I'd probably say around minimal wear. There's not a huge amount of scratching to either the blade or the handle, and safari mesh doesn't really look too bad on this. I think it almost gives it that theme of like an actual military jungle warfare knife, which is, I guess, the kind of theme you'd want on a knife like this. I think the safari mesh definitely suits the knife, and overall this is a pretty good value item to pick up. But guys, that is just about it for this list. These are just my opinions. If you feel like I missed out a knife, or maybe a camo in particular on a knife that I mentioned, then let me know down in the comments below. And if you guys seem to enjoy this video enough, then I may make a part 2 follow up with some extra knives that perhaps I didn't show enough love for. I'll probably do one of these in the future with weapon skins as well. I have done in the past, so if that's something you would like to see, then definitely let me know down in the comments. I can get working on that whenever, really. This is my first CS video in a while, and I definitely want to do more. You know, CSGO has always been a very prominent game for me, and I'd love to start making CSGO videos again, as I did many years ago. But yeah, guys, thanks again for watching. Leave a like if you did enjoy, and peace. Wanna
fucking A Corolla.